welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire with me, your host, Wolvie. We are on episode, I've got to check the board, 14, and I am here with Maya. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's early, but I am awake, so...
I mean, I wouldn't consider it early, but I'm one of those early birds, so that's...
Lockdown has messed my sleep schedule up completely, so...
I can sympathise.
I live on coffee.
So obviously, like we always do here on the show, we're going to go straight into the Rapid Fire Challenge. 15 questions. You've got to answer them as quickly as possible. The current fastest time was Tom in episode 13. He did it in 1 minute. So we
okay.
quicker. So if you could, beat the 1 minute barrier, then you'll go straight to the top of the leaderboard.
My aim is to beat the War Mistress, but I'll give it a go.
Quite a few people's aim has been to beat Tanya. So we will see. We will see. So yes, we'll do the 15 questions, and then we'll just go through your life in the hobby.
That sounds good.
So, with no further ado, if you're ready, we'll get started.
I'm ready.
Fantastic. So, as I always do, my cheap stopwatch here. Your time starts now. How many years have you been in the hobby?
3.
What game systems do you follow?
40k, Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, Necromunda. I think that's all of them.
What are your current armies?
I have Sisters of Battle, I have Heathen Knights of Slamash, Drukhari, and I've just started Grey Knights.
What was your first army?
Drukhari.
What model or unit have you enjoyed painting the most?
It was just a Ordo Malleus Terminator.
What model or unit have you enjoyed painting the least?
Ivrain.
What was the last model you fully completed?
It will be just a Zephyrin.
How much hobby time do you get per week?
About 10 hours, roughly.
What is the current model you're working on?
Badge painting, lots and lots of Sisters Infantry.
Your single favourite thing about the hobby?
Meeting people.
The least favourite thing about the hobby?
Also meeting people.
Who or what got you into the hobby?
Working in a game store.
What keeps you in the hobby?
The people I've met.
And what is your one hobby target for this year?
To go to at least 2 tournaments.
That was it. That's your 15 questions. How do you think you did?
I don't think I've gotten a minute.
So obviously our record is Tom, who did a minute. And you wanted to beat Tanya, who was 1:37. And you did it in 1:21. So you've beaten Tanya, but you've not beaten the time. I think that will put you about third. I think
I'm happy with third.
So
I'm happy to be bronze medalist.
Like I said, it's around that. Obviously, I don't have the full table in front of me, but yeah, it's about that.
Sounds good.
So expand then on getting into the hobby. You say you worked in a game store.
Yeah, so
the game store came first, and then the hobby.
Yeah, I worked in a comics and game store for about 5 years. So through that, I got into miniature gaming through things like D&D Attack Wing. I tried Halo Fleet Battles, the Halo Ground Command, and just I think War Machine. And I tried lots of different game systems through that, and I found that I enjoyed them, but couldn't find one that either had a big enough community to enjoy or that I enjoyed enough to stick with. D&D Attack Wing was my game, but the company that makes that eventually stopped supporting it, so the game died.
It's always the worst when that happens.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with the Halo games as well. The Halo games, the company went up bust, and those died as well. And me and my partner just wanted something that we could play together. The local GW manager, he was a customer of ours. He often bought Magic from us and comics from me. So he recommended I take a look at Kill Team. We gave it a go and just found that we enjoyed it. We went to Warhammer World for a Kill Team weekend. where they did a learn to play kill team on the Saturday, tournament on the Sunday. And so we did that.
That's baptism of fire.
Yeah. And we found we really enjoyed it. So we're like, okay, we can get on board with kill team, and you know, kill team's an entryway drag. The moment you start, eventually you end up with a 2,000 point army.
I think that's generally kind of like the design of it. It's one side of it, it's a quicker game. If you want to play a game of 40k, you can easily get that done popping around someone's in the evening. But as you say, you pick up a squad, you know, attack squad or intercessors or whatever, like a squad of something, and you've got a kill team straight off the bat. So like you say, so how did you graduate then from kill team to full 40k?
We really enjoyed the Warhammer World Tournament we went to. We enjoyed the atmosphere of it. We enjoyed the meeting lots of people through it. So we decided to slowly build up, partly because I was I had a witch cult from my kill team. And then I was like, okay, I want a couple more of this special weapon. So I bought another box, and then, oh, maybe I want some Cabalite warriors. So I bought another box, and then commanders came out. So I bought a succubus, and so I had HQs. And so I ended up with just 1,000 point army very quickly. And we noticed that Warhammer World do doubles tournaments where we could both go together, playing an army joint together, and decided, you know what, let's give that a go. And so we built up between us 2,000 points of Inari, went to Warhammer World and played doubles tournaments and really enjoyed it.
How did you find the tournament scene? Because I find there's a lot of elitism within the tournament scene, which if that's the kind of, you know, thing people like, that's the kind of, you know, that's what they go for. But obviously a lot of people also don't particularly like that. How did you find the tournament scene?
We found it just really fun. It was a really like everyone there was just there to have fun. It was it wasn't like a GT or, you know, any of the really, really competitive tournaments. It was, you can just grab two armies, slap them together and go and play. I went with a Drukhari Witch Cult, which in 8th edition was terrible. And I had giant bright pink painted monkeys. I had just as many dogs as I could put in. And people just enjoyed seeing our army. It was something different. And it was a lot of fun. It was just really calm, really relaxing, really just an entertaining weekend. And because of being in a games shop, tournaments, I am used to being in a tournament atmosphere, either running Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments or being around Magic the Gathering tournaments and other card games like tournament, as well as D&D Attack Wing. D&D Attack Wing got us into competitive play a lot. And so we enjoy the tournament scene. We enjoy just being able to play lots of games with lots of people who also enjoy the same hobby as you do.
And I think that's the thing. And obviously you mentioned about your, we'll call it standout army, but I think some of your painting style is particularly stand out. You look at the colors you've got there. Like I saw like a Sister of Battle that I would only consider to be almost pastel in the way that it's painted, the pink and blue. And I just looked at it, I thought that is outstanding. I've never seen anyone use pastel colors. But then looking at the rest of what you've got, your use of color is different, and I quite like that.
Thank you. So I enjoy bright colors. The Sister of Battle you're referring to was my first color test for my Sisters of Battle, where, because I'm transgender, I decided I wanted to have that embodied in my Sisters of Battle. And so I decided to try and use the trans flag as a color scheme. Struggled with it a bit. I couldn't get the white done very well, and so rethought it because it was just taking me too long on every individual model. I wasn't enjoying the color scheme because just my skill level is not yet at a point where I can pull that color scheme off the way I wanted.
Let me tell you, 20 years in the hobby and I still can't get white right. So, you know.
So I decided to sort of, I've still got that one model painted because I didn't want to strip that one, but I stripped the rest and rethought my approach to Sisters. And that's how my Sisters of Slaanesh came about.
So talk to me about adding tails. Like, again, I've never seen, I love Sisters of Battle. They were my first army. To see them with tails, I was like, oh, this is different.
So yeah, that came from the Demonofuge graphic novel. Mm-hmm. I gave that a read because they re-released that last year. And that explored the idea of Sisters of Battle that have fallen to Slaanesh, who have become obsessed with Keepers of Secrets and just chaos in general. And so I decided that's a cool idea. I wanna explore that more. F.L. Stern, who I'm currently reading her novel.
Yeah.
F.L. Stern has the F.L. Codex, which is all of the knowledge that she gained from Keeper of Secrets that she wrote down, and halfway through the story she loses that book. And so I quite enjoy my narrative play, and I decided to expand upon the narrative of her losing that book to be an order of sisters finding that book, thinking this information needs to get out there, trying to recreate that information and slowly falling to the corruption of Slaanesh.
I like that.
And I decided that having looked around at, has anyone done Sisters of Slaanesh before? I found some very crude ways of doing that.
Yeah, of course.
And so I looked at the Emperor's Children and Fulgrim. So I looked at sort of the Chaos Space Marines, things like the Chaos Possessed, where their jetpacks are just wings sprouting out of their backpacks and things like that. And so decided to try and add some grace to that for the sisters, which is how we end up with things like a sister with wings and a tail. Yeah, so I just very much follow a couple of rules I've set for myself on doing these builds. In, does it match a Chaos Space Marine, or does it match the idea of Fulgrim?
Yeah.
Because we don't have a Fulgrim model, but we know the image of Fulgrim. He's got the snake tail, the forearms, the giant wings. And so, yeah, that's how I came about doing it, is trying to just do Sisters of Slaanesh, but not all TNA.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, that is like I say, it's very different to anything I've seen. And obviously, you're saying like you like your narrative play. I too love a good story. I like a good reason for X to face Y. I quite like that. But I've seen, obviously, you have filmed a few bat reps. You seem to be dipping some toes there. Is that something you're planning on continuing?
Starting to take some dips in, because I am getting ready for doing my first ITC tournament later this year. So I'm trying to just have a catalog of my games for the lead up, my game practice, because where it is, there's a very big difference between narrative and competitive play. Yeah. And so yeah, like I've just started a crusade for this week, just doing a week-long crusade with a friend, but at the same time with my sisters, I'm trying to be more competitive. So yeah, I've been trying to catalog my games so that people can see my progress in the lead up to this ITC tournament. And also,
you know, provided people are kind, you know, you can get good feedback about, especially if you do like a bat rep, you can get good feedback in it. Oh, maybe try this next time, or try using this strat when you're charging in, or try, and you pick up little bits and pieces from other people who play those armies, because usually a person who watches a bat rep, they're interested in one of the armies that are playing. and they'll be able to give like tips, be able to, you know, give things for you to try.
Yeah. And I've already had some of that, and it's already helped. Like I struggle with choosing secondary objectives.
Yeah.
Somebody looked at my list and gave me the suggestion of, oh, have you tried using this secondary objective because you've got this, this, and this in your list? And that worked out quite well for me in the end. So yeah, it's things like that have been definitely helpful.
Good. So we're gonna sort of like stay in the hobby, but move to one side. You are quite the advocate for discussing mental health, and you've obviously spoken about how, you know, on particularly poor mental health periods, it can sort of eat at your ability to hobby. How do you conquer that? How do you then start thinking, no, the hobby can be a good distraction? How do you twist that round? How do you turn it around?
Some days are definitely harder than others, but quite often it will take me during bad weeks, it will take me possibly the entire week to get around to hobbying. But I will spend that week, you know, if I've managed to get out of bed and just set up the table for me to do some painting, by the end of that week, I will have been sat at that table. I will complete a model, and I ride the high of completion for as long as I can.
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks ago, I had a bit of a bad stretch where I'm on like my meds had changed, so I was really struggling. But I managed to get all of my models primed throughout the week and put them on the table, and just sat and batch painted my infantry so that they all had at least one layer of pink on them, and that helped me to just be able to see that I had done something.
Yeah.
To just keep writing that, okay, I did something yesterday, I got to do something today on top of what I did yesterday. And so a lot of it is just riding highs for as long as I can.
I think getting that completion buzz, you know, if you are stuck or you're overwhelmed or whatever, just complete something and you get that buzz of, oh, he's completed, like now I can do the next.
Yeah.
And like you say, if you do small things, if on the Monday you think, oh, I've got no interest in it whatsoever, just get the paints out of the box. And then on the Tuesday, you move the paints to wherever you need to, you get the model that you want and you put it on the table. And like you said, just do little things, because one of the best things about this hobby is actually the mental health benefits that it can give you, that mindfulness. It's the same as they always advertise coloring to a lot of people, but something just sitting there brushing, if you've got a podcast, if you've got a back rep, if you've got music on in the background, it's a kind of mindfulness you can't really buy. It's almost, for me personally, it's almost meditation. You know, I have quite a stressful day job, so you know, it's almost like a meditation.
Yeah, being able to just sit, and once I'm going, I can just sit and focus on what I'm doing until my back aches, you know. Yeah. It's definitely rough sometimes, but I find it does help. It's definitely helped a lot throughout lockdown, because I spent a lot of lockdown on my own. So being able to just sit and hobby as much as possible helped as a good distraction.
That's good. So during the rapid fire section, you said that both your favorite and least favorite part of the hobby is meeting people in the community.
Yeah.
Expand on that. So let's go for the favorites first, and then we'll switch around.
Yeah. So I've met a lot of lovely people. Tanya, as an example.
She's awesome.
I met sort of last September. I made the trip to Liverpool to meet Kirsty, the Warhammer princess, as well as a few other people who went to an event that she put on. And I've met some wonderful people in this hobby. I've made some genuine friends that I am happy to be able to call friends and talk to on an almost daily basis. And I also enjoy, as I say, I enjoy going to the tournaments, meeting people through that and chatting to them, finding out what they enjoy. I enjoy showing off my army to new people, where I have got the ridiculous tank with a speaker in it, and yeah, as I said, the bright pink monkeys and other things. Like I enjoy the act of meeting people and talking to people about a hobby that I love.
Yeah.
On the flip side, my anxieties, definitely play into a lot of my worry about meeting people. It's scary. Like it takes me. So as I said, I went to Liverpool for a weekend. It took me about a week to recover the mental energy to do anything after getting home that weekend, because it was just a lot for me to do. And there's always there are still some bad eggs in the community. I have met some people who are homophobic or transphobic, who aren't the most accepting of people. And whenever I'm meeting a new person, it's very much a roll of the dice. Is this person going to be accepting, or are they going to be an asshole?
Unfortunately, yeah, it is very much kind of like 97% of people will just accept you as who you are. You're a hobbyist. Gender is irrelevant. If you're going to put models on the table, or you want to talk about the hobby, let's get down to it. One of the things that I feel really proud of so far in the 14 episodes of this show is it's almost so far been 50% women that have appeared on this, which, you know, I'm more than happy with. I love that. I think I agree with Quickster when he said a couple of episodes ago that, you know, the women's side of the hobby is only going to build. And, you know, there are a growing number of trans people within the hobby, and that for me is phenomenal as well. You know, I've got, how can I put this? I've got a very, very free and diverse upbringing. I'm the grandson of a Greek immigrant, hence the name, my real name being Andonis. I'm the son of a gay man. My sister identifies as lesbian as well. And my dad has got a lot of friends that have been drag queens, trans, like I have met throughout my life at the age of 6 and 7, you know, hang around all these amazing larger than life characters. And for me to be able to obviously have, you know, a trans person on the show, first but not last sort of thing, is, you know, it's amazing for me, and all the people that have been part of this is phenomenal. And I want to keep showcasing everyone within the hobby, because I want people to see that a hobbyist is a hobbyist. Everything that goes on the outside here doesn't matter. If you've got a brain and you can think tactically, or you want to paint, or you want to play, like let's throw dice. Everything else is actually irrelevant.
And that's the viewpoint that everyone should take. But sadly, as you say, there's about 3% of the community who don't take that viewpoint.
And it's very clear that, like on our videos on YouTube, the only videos that have got any dislikes are the ones with females, and I hate that. I can't see the person who disliked it as well, which is really extra annoying. But that I don't like that. I don't know why that would be the case. Like I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And you know, nobody should be devalued for, you know, any of their personality if you want to be part of this hobby.
Exactly. You know, all we want to do is paint miniatures, put them on a table, and roll dice. Like it shouldn't be any different whether we are, as you say, male, female, or any of the in-betweens. And that is part of what I enjoy. I have met some wonderful people who are incredibly accepting. My local GW has been wonderful. They have been a lifeline for me throughout lockdown. They are a bunch of absolutely brilliant people who have always made the effort to get things right. You know, just whether it's asking me what my pronouns are, asking me, you know, is it okay to say this? Is it okay to ask this? And I'm like, I'm a very open book. If somebody has a question, I will answer it. But they've also been So there was an incident where one person kept misgendering me, even after both the store manager corrected him, several of the other people in the group corrected him. He just kept on doing it. And so eventually, like, no, we don't want you here. We don't want to play games with you anymore because of how disrespectful you are being. And that was a really kind of touching moment for me. The fact that they were like, no, they were willing to just cut this guy out because he was being very disrespectful, very close-minded, and you know, they were as polite as possible about it.
And that's the thing. There's being forgetful. You know, not everybody's going to be brilliant at necessarily putting the things. So there's being forgetful, and you know, oh shit, sorry, I didn't mean to like mislabel you there. You know, my apology. But if they're being constantly reminded, you almost feel like, are you now doing this on purpose? And it's good that the store manager kind of went, right, do you know what? You know, GW put out that awesome thing last year, didn't they? During like the BLM, but it kind of, they wrote it very cleverly that it included basically everyone. If you're against anybody in this hobby, bye.
Yeah.
they don't want you. And I think that was one of the few really large companies in the UK to really make that very clear stance of, if you're going to be this way, we don't want you. So
yeah, exactly. And that was a post that really, that's one of the posts that has really wanted to keep me in this hobby.
Yeah.
No matter what, because I know that Games Workshop will always take that stance of Warhammer is for everyone, then sure, I'm going to be sticking around and doing Warhammer for quite some time to come.
It's for everyone, but it's not for bigots.
Yes, exactly.
Which, you know, I think is, you know, absolutely awesome. And, you know, you'd be always welcome to play any games around here as well. So, you know, that's just a straight up.
I will probably take you up on that sometime, sir.
I don't know what the distance is between us, but I'm sure we could figure that out. So going back then to the hobby side.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're improving on your game, but what are some of your favorite in-game moments that have made you think, you know what, this is why I do what I do?
So one that I was reminded of the other day was not long after 9th edition dropped, playing a game with my sisters against the Indomitus box. You know, Space Marines had just got their new codex. They had the ridiculously overpowered Judicia.
Yeah.
And it had just been cutting its way through my sisters, and just having a canoness go around behind the Judicia, Inferno pistol in hand, and just blowing his brains out was rather wonderful.
That sounds like a good moment.
One of my other favorite moments was at the doubles tournament, having Succubus take down a knight single-handedly.
Oh wow, I mean, that's even before their current rules, where succubuses terrify me now. They terrify me.
Yeah, it was definitely stacking some of the ridiculous buffs that the Inari had, just to allow her to just charge this knight and take off all of its wounds in 1-2 rounds of combat.
Yeah.
Those are two of the definitely standout moments. But I love a lot of the narratives that I managed to build. Having recently completed a Path to Glory campaign in Age of Sigmar, there were lots of just ridiculous moments in that, including having to fight over a giant spider. You know, it was Slaves to Darkness, following Zeech versus my Heathen Knights of Slamash, and somehow halfway through our narrative, a giant spider was added to the mix, and having to fight over who gets to control that was rather entertaining. I had quite a lot of fun at my very first Kill Team tournament, having just a witch cult just swarm through a rogue trader ship. There's so many moments that I have enjoyed, that because I enjoy my narrative play and I enjoy my storytelling, I've been able to just add more to
Yeah.
that. I could go on for days just listing moments.
So have you considered doing something like almost writing a battle tome for your Sisters of Slaneesh, I think, as you called them, because as they do more stuff narratively, it adds to this story of this army that, I mean, like I said, it's such a unique concept that to have like a whole battle tome of it would be pretty cool.
I have been slowly sort of making notes of things, making notes. Like I am starting to name characters. I've got 3 tanks now, all of which have names. And I have more tanks to come later this year, hopefully with the Castigator. And so, yeah, I've definitely been considering it. I know there's some people on Instagram who do some wonderful artwork that I do want to get commissioned at some point for some of the more custom builds that I've done. So yeah, it's definitely something I've been looking into, and I've started laying the groundwork for. At the moment, a lot of my focus has just been getting it built and painted, ready for tournament. But
I mean, as somebody who I'm looking up there because that's where my terrain is. I put a bunch of electronics in the terrain, and they're all light up and stuff like that. I'm really enjoying that you have put electronics in your tanks.
Yeah. So far, only 1 tank, and I have already got plans for a speaker tank 2.0. But funds have definitely made that difficult.
Of course.
So, because I think it added about £70 to the value of the Exorcist kit in the end, through just testing different batteries, the battery's not working, among other slip-ups along the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that came from trying to figure out a way to make some of my tanks a little bit more Slanesh, and discovering that the Emperor's Children once had a Sonic Dreadnought, which just had 2 giant speakers for a gun. I was like, okay, that's an idea.
I was going to say, I'm now assuming that's going to get built at some point, right?
Eventually I'll build my own Sonic Dreadnought. But in the meantime, I was like, okay, 2 speakers as a gun, I can probably work with that. The Exorcist already has the giant organ missile launcher, so let's throw these doors away and slap some speakers where the door used to be. And I was like, oh, well, if I'm doing that, I might as well make the speakers work. And so last summer, I just did all of the research to learn, how do I solder stuff? What do I need to make a Bluetooth speaker work? And
yeah, so I used to do soldering as a job, so that's why I always wanted to like have terrain with electronics in. I've got a Logan Grimnar that he lights up. He's got 2 street lamps beside him, and they sort of like light up, so it looks like he's dashing through the snow like Santa. And when I sold my Space Wolves, I was like, I can't get rid of him. I put so many hours into him. I bought a soldering iron, and my plan is to do more with lights, but I don't know what yet. But you know, so anytime anybody puts electronics in. So is that like a Bluetooth speaker, or?
It is a Bluetooth speaker.
So what do you plan on playing through it? Just general music, or?
So it just connects to my phone. I have a Spotify playlist I've been slowly building of everything I can think of that would fit Slanesh. It's got a lot of K-pop in it, which
that kind of feels like it would fit. Fits. I've not listened to much K-pop, but the stuff I have heard, it kind of feels like that would fit.
Yeah, you know, psychological warfare, as well as some metal, some different things. I think it's got Disco Tits by Tovolo in the playlist because I felt that fit, you know. I mean, a song about drugs and sex and all of that stuff that kind of fits, all about excess.
I actually would like to see a video of this in action, to be fair. I think that's something you should definitely look to put out there, because that would be just awesome to see this vehicle. You know, no one has to make a brum brum noise. This thing is just going to be playing K-pop and disco tits as it goes through the.
Yeah, you know, it works really quite well. I love how good the sound quality is on it. It's it lasts for about 20 hours on a battery, because Bluetooth is a battery drainer. So But it's enough that I can just stick a 9-volt battery in, go to a tournament for a weekend, and have it playing music throughout the tournament if I wanted.
I mean, that is so cool. So obviously you've built that. What are some of your other hobby plans over the next 12 months? What are you planning to obviously you've said about getting into or doing 2 tournaments before the end of the year. Obviously in the UK, hopefully in 2 months' time, we are in our like irreversible lockdown, as the old Prime Minister's called it. So
yeah,
tournaments in the second half of the year should really start to kick in, and everybody's going to be desperate to get down gaming stores and be around people. But what are some of your other plans that you've got?
So Sisters obviously are getting a whole new range of miniatures, with the Nundam suit. I think they just 2 days ago announced a new type of Celestian with shields and spears.
Yeah.
There's more tanks to come, so it's definitely going to be expanding on the Sisters, as well as I've been taking part in the War Mistress 1-for-1, where she has started doing Pink Templars. So I am doing Grey Night Lords, which are based again on a small obscure bit of story I heard about, where there's rumors that one of the original Grey Knights was a Night Lord. And so I am doing Grey Knights who are actually Night Lords in disguise. So swapping all the falchions for power claws and just making them that little bit more brutal, that little bit more twisted than a normal Grey Knight. I say that knowing that there's a story about Grey Knights slaughtering sisters and covering themselves in their blood. So
I mean, they are fairly brutal. Obviously, that's one of the armies that I have started in lockdown. I've not played with them yet, but obviously I've painted a good few thousand points. I finished a set actually about an hour ago before we started this. So I finished another strike squad, but having read their lore, some of it is pretty brutal. And they're very selective about who they allow to like remember that they exist. They've obviously slaughtered people to cover themselves, but at the same time they also allowed Logan Grimnar to walk away despite him knowing who the Grey Knights are. So there is some very, very good like lore out there for them. So if you found a new angle on it, again, I'm all here for it.
I mean, knowing that, again, looking into things like the Night Lords, all Night Lords are a little bit psychic. So I decided to play off that. I love the idea that some Night Lords paint their fists red to mark that they know how they will die, and it will be at the hands of their Primarch. So I'm going to have all of the leadership with red hands. I'm going to I've been changing all of the Force Halberds for the chain glaives, the Forge World chain glaives, and just little things to have them be again, they are very much a small project for painting. They are not meant for competitive play. And they're just little changes, little things to have this group of Night Lords who have infiltrated the Grey Knights in search for the original Night Lord who fell or betrayed them for the Grey Knights, and just having some fun with it, just telling a story with them. And I've been using them in the Crusade this week just for a bit of fun. And it's again just another. I enjoy reading the lore of Warhammer, finding little obscure stories within Warhammer and building on them, because there's just so much to this universe that is just so much fun.
I would say there's it by and large, and I'm a massive comic book fan. I've got hundreds of Batman comics on the other side of the man cave there. But despite being a massive comic book fan and fan of all things like Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, this is the biggest universe, I think, fictional universe that's possibly been created.
I think I've got to agree with you there. Like, the number of comics I've read in my 5 years of working in the comic shop, I think nothing has quite ever matched the Warhammer universe. And I enjoy the video games. I enjoy I've just dipped into the Black Library, and I'm really enjoying the Black Library. I'm going to eventually go back and read all of the Horus Heresy.
That's a massive undertaking, but you know, I salute you for that.
Yeah, maybe listen to the Horus Heresy.
That might be the better way of doing it.
But yeah, like there is so much to this universe. There is so much lore, so much fun to be had, and I always enjoy the Games Workshop view of everything is canon, even when it's not.
Yeah.
And so just being able to just put your own twists on it, you know, I know there are people out there who they like their lore, they like to be lore accurate, they like their Ultramarines to have the right company colors and things like that.
I think that's an Ultramarine thing for sure.
But for me, it's the obscurity, the fact that because it's such a large universe, because there have been people who have wrote so many books without talking to other writers, there are some obscure results that end up with it. So like the Night Lord, the person who wrote a bunch of Night Lords books for the Horus Heresy, he wrote a couple of Grey Knight books that he kind of suggested one or two things. That's what I've decided to latch onto with them. I know that I've got plans for a Tau army at some point that focuses on the Farsight Enclave and some of the obscure bits that come from that as a result. And I'm really enjoying my Drakari and reading about them. I'm enjoying the lore of the Inari and how they're going to, there's this whole plan to have a mass suicide at some point within the Eldar community to try and beat Slaneesh, and then hope that it does enough that Yvain is able to bring all of the Eldar back to life. Little things like that are just, they're fun. It shows how dark and weird this universe is, that you can find something, you can build up on it and make something unique as a result.
Exactly, yeah. And I think a lot of people, like, you can just find your niche, and there is a lot of, you know, custom Space Marine armors. There's a lot of custom things, you know, craft worlds for Eldar, for example. But you know, if you are narratively minded, you can find something small and build something incredible out of it. And you know, I'm definitely interested to see what you do with the Farsight enclaves. Yeah. So coming towards the end, the last question I always ask everybody is, whilst this hobby is massive, it's not necessarily everybody's only hobby. Have you got any other hobbies away from this one?
Comics. Yep. As I say, used to work in a comic shop, so I've got lots of comics. D&D, board games, of just general board games, and occasionally video games. I found that I've been enjoying Warhammer a lot more than I have video games recently. But yeah, I am a nerd. I worked in a nerd shop, and so I have a lot of nerd hobbies that came from that.
I mean, that is no bad thing. I think nerd used to be an insult once upon a time, and now it's kind of the new cool. Like, oh yeah,
it's a badge I wear with pride.
I wish I could play that. Or you've got this, or you've got that, and it's like, yeah. You know, once upon a time you would kind of say, yeah, I collect Warhammer out the side of your mouth, but now it's like, yeah, tabletop wargaming, kind of, that's my thing. And people go, oh, okay, like I remember some of that, like, and that's really cool. But obviously, let's say I'm a massive comic book nerd as well. My entire arm here is Batman, nice. Tattoos and stuff like that. So I think for us in this sort of community, it's general escapism. I think what it is, you know, there's a direct correlation between the popularity of comic books and the financial state of countries, which I've read a whole thing about it, and I thought that was really fascinating. Like during the Great Depression in the United States, comic books became this massive thing, and it's kind of happened over here that comic books started becoming big again around 2006, 7, 8, when this country went like downhill, and there was the financial crash that happened all around the world. Out of that came things like Iron Man and the Marvel universe that we obviously see today. And that purely is that for the time you're watching it, reading it, however you're taking that in, that's it. That's all there is. And it is that general escapism. So, you know, I've always loved comics for exactly that.
Yeah. And comics again has a similar message of comics are for everyone. Like if you want to start reading comics, there is a comic for you somewhere.
And it depends, exactly, and it depends on the sort of thing you like. So for me, the DC universe is darker than the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, in Batman, you've got a guy called the Condiment King who runs around with ketchup and mustard. You've got the polka dot guy. I've forgotten his name now, but you know, he's slinging out polka dots. So it can be goofy, but also with Batman, you can get like the Batman who laughs is like a very, you know, killing joke, which has got rape in it, essentially.
Yeah.
Very, very, you've got all these very dark storylines. And on the other side of Gotham, you've got some guy squirting, you know, mustard and ketchup at everyone. So it's, you know,
yeah, and
there is something for everyone. And if you can think of a character, they exist.
Like, yes, absolutely. I mean, just the X-Men alone have some ridiculous characters. I mean, I'm happy to read most things. I'm not a huge fan of horror, so I will usually avoid my horror comics. But I've read I think I've read almost every major story in both Marvel and DC since about 2015. I read a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy, because I like to use those to help drive my creativity for D&D.
Yeah.
I enjoy my fantasy comics for that, and the sci-fi comics. Sci-fi is just something I've always enjoyed. I've read the Halo comics, the Mass Effect comics that all expand upon universes I enjoy from video games. I've read a couple of the Warhammer comics, which was one of the first things that really drove me to, I want to build a character from this. There is the female Inquisitor in Terminator armor.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, no matter what, I am adding a Terminator to my army at some point. So that was something I quite enjoyed. And yeah, like comics are a lovely way to escape. If you just need to just sit down and chill and just read a comic in 20 minutes.
And that's the thing, like it depends, obviously graphic novels take a little bit longer, but even then you can read a graphic novel cover to cover in an hour flat. And it's just that escapism. You get, you know, the beginning, middle and end of a story, but there's always some sort of grander arc part of it. But, you know, whether it's a graphic novel for about an hour, whether it's a comic book for 20 minutes, and there's something to suit, like I say, everyone. You know, I've got Batman versus Predator. I mean, I think that's it's a pretty I think
I've read that one. It's a very enjoyable mashup.
Exactly, but my biggest thing is the Batman cartoons. I've got just about every Batman cartoon DVD there is available, from Batman versus Ninja Turtles all the way up to, you know, the 90s animated series and all of that stuff in between. And it's all that's my favorite. That's my escapism, because, you know, they're all about an hour or so long, and that's just the best. You know, I love all that. I particularly enjoy Mark Hamill as the Joker and Kevin Conroy as Batman. I think those two, I saw a thing with Mark Hamill the other day where he basically said whenever they approach him to do the Joker, whether it is in a computer game or whether it's in the animated series, he immediately goes, have you got Kevin Conroy on board? He won't read the script. Have you got Kevin Conroy? And they'll go, oh yeah. And he'll go, then I'm in.
Yeah.
And that,
yes, I had heard that.
And they've had that chemistry for 30 years playing these two characters. And I think you can't beat that. They would never have been able to play those people. Kevin Conroy maybe, but they would never have been able to play those people in real life in a live action movie. But they are two of the most recognizable voices of those characters.
It is Mark Hamill's Joker laugh that everyone knows, like better than anybody else's.
But he makes it different depending on like what the Joker's mood is, and I think that's really good. Like his laugh is, you can tell it's his laugh, but it's so different for different things, and I love all that. I love listening to him talk about being the Joker. I could sit there and watch him all day. Obviously, as a massive Star Wars fan, that helps as well. But
have you ever watched the little short of Mark Hamill Kidnaps Mark Hamill?
I have not.
It's a wonderful little Batman animated short where the Joker and the Riddler, I think it's the Riddler, or it's another character that Mark Hamill voices in the Batman animated series, kidnaps, and I think Mark Hamill, or at least another character that Mark Hamill kidnaps or plays in the series. And so they're just in a car these 3 characters, all voiced by Mark Hamill. It is
I might have to
wonderful.
find that out, because obviously one of the things that I found interesting is that Mark Hamill said that he based one of the laughs of the Joker off Frank Gersh, the original Riddler in the 60s series with Burt Ward and Adam West. Based his laugh off the Riddler rather than the Joker. And then when you go back and hear Frank Gersh's laugh, you kind of go, holy hell, that's Mark Hamill's laugh. Like that's, and I think that sort of thing's awesome. So if he's playing the Riddler as well, I'm all about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really just fun little short that I definitely would recommend checking out at some point.
I will find that at some point today, probably not before work now because I've got, but definitely afterwards. Well, the last thing for me to do is to thank you for coming on here and sharing all of your hobby experiences.
That's all right. Thank you for having me on.
And obviously to tell everyone, obviously your details will be underneath your name on how to find you and the things that you're involved in. But if there's a Warhammer Ladies Day, you're in there. I've seen your name in there.
Yeah.
You do things with various people all the time, and I think that's that's really cool. So if this is people's first viewing of you, it sure as hell won't be the last, hopefully.
Hopefully, I'm hoping to try and do this more often. I know I've got a couple more people that have asked me to join them on shows and stuff. Yeah. So it's definitely stepping out of my comfort zone, but I am enjoying it.
Well, even presenting these things is stepping out of my comfort zone. It's not something I ever envisioned myself doing, but here I am 14 episodes in, and I'm only now starting to get kind of comfortable with it. But so you'll conquer that. And with each passing episode, I think pay attention to all the good feedback, block out the 3% as best as you can, and just keep being you, because you is awesome.
Thank you.
That's okay. So thank you very much for joining me.
That's right. Thank you.
Cheers.